You weren't quiet because you were weak. You were quiet because you were waiting to see who would betray you first. And they did. Every single one of them. Now they want your voice back. Not for you. For them. Because silence from someone who used to bleed for them feels like a knife they can't pull out. Good. Let it sit. You think I'm here to tell you to speak up? No. I'm here to tell you to stay gone. Stay silent. Let them marinate in the absence of the person they took for granted. Let them call your name into a room that doesn't echo back. Your silence isn't passive. It's a weapon. It's the slow suffocation of every person who mistook your patience for permission. Every friend who disappeared when you stopped performing. Every lover who only loved you when you were useful. They're not missing you. They're missing what you did for them. And that difference, that's the whole war. So don't answer. Don't explain. Don't return. Let them drown in the quiet you left behind. They built that ocean. Now let them drown. Do you know what silence really does? It doesn't just fill a room. It burrows into the skull of the person waiting for it. You see, sound is a bargain. Shout, curse, explain. It's a trade. You give them a piece of your pain, they get a piece of the story. They can frame it, twist it, file it away as your overreaction. But silence? Silence is a mirror with a crack down the middle. They'll speak first, not with words, with sweat, with sleeplessness. They'll rehearse 100 conversations with you in the shower, dissecting your last look, your last shrug, trying to find the script you threw away. They build a skit. Instagram 6 minutes ago. But your message is the one that doesn't get desperate. So what do? You type again. Then you delete it. Then you type it differently. Then you delete it again. Then you send something casual. Something light. Something that doesn't sound desperate. Because God forbid you sound desperate. Even though you are desperate. Even though your hands are shaking and you've rewritten the same 14 words 9 times, trying to make need sound like indifference. That's your whole life right there, in that little piping bubble. Appearing and disappearing. Appearing and disappearing. Never landing. You do this at work too, don't you? You sit in that KPI meeting, and your boss skips right over your slide. Doesn't even pause. Just clicks forward. And you had numbers this quarter. You had actual numbers. But you don't say anything. You just sit there with your folder open and your mouth closed. And you tell yourself it's fine. It's fine. They'll notice next time. They'll see it next quarter. Next quarter comes. Same thing. And at home? Oh, at home it's even worse. Because at work you can tell yourself it's politics, it's hierarchy, it's professional. But at home? At that dinner table? Your mother asks your sister about her job, her apartment, her life. And you're right there. You're right across the table. You exist. You have a pulse. But she looks through you like you're made of glass. So you try harder. You start talking louder. You explain yourself more. You add context. You add details. You're practically presenting a case to a jury just to be acknowledged by the people who are supposed to love you for free. And you know what happens when you over-explain. They glaze over. They interrupt. They say you're making a big deal out of nothing. And now you're not just invisible. You're invisible and dramatic. You're the problem for noticing you don't exist. That relationship you're in right now, or the one you just crawled out of, same pattern. You begged, didn't you? You begged for basic replies, basic decency. You'd send paragraphs and get back K. You'd ask what's wrong and get back silence. You'd cry and they'd roll their eyes. You'd ask, "Do you even love me?" And they'd say, "Here we go again." Like your need for connection was an inconvenience. Like your heart was a chore list they kept ignoring. And you adapted. You made yourself smaller. You stopped bringing things up. In arguments, you went quiet. Not because you had nothing to say. Because every time you opened your mouth before, it got held against you. So you swallowed it. All of it. You swallowed your truth so many times it nearly drowned you. You learned to beg silently, to need without showing, to love at half volume so nobody had to deal with the noise. Then came the moment. Not a whisper from the shadows, a click, a tumbling of the locks inside your own chest. The realization that the silence was never empty. It was full. Full of their indifference, their hunger, their noise. And you had been feeding it with the only currency you had. You stopped mid-sentence, not because you had nothing to say, because you finally understood the value of what you were about to give away. You looked at their expectant faces, the open mouths, the recording devices, and you felt nothing. No panic, no urge to perform, just a cold, clear inventory. They had your voice on file, your laughs catalogued, your anger archived. But the silence, this was the first thing you ever owned. It was full of their indifference, their hunger, their noise. And you had been feeding it with the only currency you had. You stopped mid-sentence, not because you had nothing to say, because you finally understood the value of what you were about to give away. You looked at their expectant faces, the open mouths, the recording devices, and you felt nothing. No panic, no urge to perform, just a cold, clear inventory. They had your voice on file, your laughs catalogued, your anger archived. But the silence, this was the first thing you ever owned. It was full of their indifference, their hunger, their noise. And you had been feeding it with the only currency you had. You stopped mid-sentence, not because you had nothing to say, because you finally understood the value of what you were about to give away. You looked at their expectant faces, the open mouths, the recording devices, and you felt nothing. No panic, no urge to perform, just a cold, clear inventory. They had your voice on file, your laughs catalogued, your anger archived. But the silence? This was the first thing you ever owned. It was one of the reaction. It was a declaration. A serrated, unmovable line drawn in the dust of all those wasted words. Let them talk. Let them beg for a sound. You've learned the most powerful sound is the one you choose not to make. That silence isn't a void. It's the edge of the blade you've been looking for. But what if they think I don't care? Oh, that's rich. That's absolutely delicious. Listen to yourself. Listen. You're sitting here paralyzed, not because you don't care, but because some stranger might draw the wrong picture of you. Some mouth-breathing nobody might mislabel you on their little mental scoreboard. You care so deeply about the not caring that it's consuming you. You hear that? The irony. It's screaming in this room and you're too busy whimpering to notice. Marikachinchu something pretty. They're going to misunderstand you. Guaranteed. Not maybe. Not possibly. Guaranteed. You could tattoo your feelings on your forehead, send a certified letter with a singing telegram attached, hire a skywriter, and they would still get it wrong. Because people don't see you. They see whatever ugly little movie is playing behind their own eyes. You're just a screen they project their garbage onto. So now what? You gonna adjust? Bend yourself into some pretzel shape so Tom and Sally and every forgettable face and every forgettable crowd gives you the correct scorecard? You gonna perform emotional gymnastics for an audience that isn't even watching? Here's the truth that tastes like battery acid. The people who matter will dig. They'll dig until they hit something real. And the ones who don't dig, they were never going to. You could bleed out on the floor and they'd complain about the color. So stop auditioning. Stop explaining yourself like a defendant. Every second you spend worrying about being misread is a second you're not being miserable for the right reasons, the ones you chose. You want to know what happens when you stop fearing their misunderstanding? You get free. Free to be the kind of dangerous that doesn't need a witness. Free to give everything or nothing based on what you decide, not on what they might think. But what if they think I don't care? Good. Let them. That thought isn't a prison. It's a door. And the second you stop begging for the correct interpretation of who you are, you stop being anyone's puppet and start being the hand that cuts the strings. You in? Or are you still performing for ghosts? You've been talking. God, you've been talking, explaining yourself in circles, spelling it out like they're deaf, like they're slow, like if you just find the right combination of words, they'll finally see you, finally understand, finally stop twisting every syllable into something you never said. But they were never deaf. They heard every word. They just needed you to be wrong. They needed you to be the villain in a story they wrote before you ever opened your mouth. And you fed them. You stood there bleeding and handed them the knife over and over, thinking if you explained the wound clearly enough, they'd stop cutting. You don't explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Read that again. Burn it into your skull. They are committed. This isn't confusion. This is architecture. They built a version of you that serves them. The broken one. The unstable one. The one who's always too much or never enough. And every time you defend yourself, you validate the trial. You sit in a courtroom where the verdict was written before the evidence, and you beg, and you clarify, and you offer context. And none of it matters, because they don't want truth. They want a confession. They want you small. So stop explaining. Stop translating your existence into something digestible for people who chose to choke on you. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is the moment you realize the game only works if you keep playing, and you stand up from the table. Watch what happens. Watch them squirm. Because silence terrifies the people who controlled you with noise. They need your voice, your defense, your desperation. It's the fuel. Cut the supply. Let them argue with nothing. Let their accusations fall into dead air. And watch how fast they start performing for an audience that no longer includes you. You are not misunderstood. You are mischaracterized. There's a difference. One is accidental. The other is a choice. And now you're making yours. You think silence is weakness? You think quiet means you've got nothing to say? Let me tell you about a woman I knew. Not a celebrity, not a CEO. Just a woman named Diana, who grew up in a house where every Sunday dinner was a battlefield, and she was the designated punching bag. Her mother would say things like, "Oh, you know the type. I'm only saying this because I love you." Right before she'd gut you open in front of the whole family. Her sisters would laugh. Her father would stare at his plate like it contained the secrets of the universe. And Diana would sit there, absorbing every word like a sponge absorbing acid. For years, decades, she tried fighting back once, crying, explaining, begging them to see her. You know what happened? They used her tears as evidence that she was dramatic. They used her words as ammunition for the next dinner. So one Easter, I'll never forget this. One Easter, her mother starts in on her about her weight, her divorce, her career, all of it, the whole symphony of cruelty. And Diana just smiled, didn't say a word, took another bite of ham. Her mother kept going, louder, more vicious, testing the silence like a kid poking a dead animal with a stick, wondering when it'll move. Diana didn't move. She finished her plate. She stood up. She hugged her mother, actually hugged her. And she walked out that door, and she never went back. No dramatic. No, you're dead to me. No slamming doors. She just evaporated. Her phone number changed. Her address changed. Her whole life changed. You know what happened to that family? They fell apart. Without Diana to torture, they turned on each other like rats in a cage. Her mother called her 17 times the first week. Then the sisters called. Then the father, who had never once defended her, left a voicemail saying he missed her. 17 years of silence from that man when it mattered. And now he had something to say. Diana never picked up. She built a life on the other side of that silence. A business, a real relationship. Peace. And every now and then I asked her, "Don't you want to tell them what they did?" And she just looks at me with those calm eyes and says, "They already know. That's why they're calling." That's the thing about silence, friend. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't leave a door open for someone to crawl back through and twist the knife again. Silence is a locked room. Silence is a body of water with no bottom. You throw your garbage into it, and it just takes it and gives you nothing back. The loudest thing Diana ever did was stop talking. The cruelest thing she ever did was forgive them without a single word. And you know what kills them? Not knowing if she's suffering or thriving. Not knowing if they even matter anymore. That ambiguity. That's not mercy. That's the whole damn point. You want to know what silence actually does? Let me tell you what silence actually does. Because nobody talks about this part. Everybody talks about communication. Everybody talks about expressing yourself. Everybody tells you to speak up, reach out, say how you feel, keep the lines open. And I'm sitting here telling you that the most violent thing you can ever do to someone who disrespected you is simply to stop talking. Not yell, not argue, not explain yourself for the 47th time. Just stop. Go quiet. Disappear from their screen like you never existed. And watch what happens. Watch what silence actually does to a human being who thought they had you figured out. Here's the thing they don't want you to know. When you go silent, you don't disappear. You become enormous. You become the loudest thing in their life. Every room they walk into, you're the empty chair. Every conversation they try to have with someone else, you're the pause between sentences. They check their phones 17 times in an hour, not because they're waiting for a text from someone new, but because your absence is screaming at them. Silence doesn't make you small. Silence makes you the biggest thing they've ever lost. Think about what they're doing right now. While you're sitting here, rebuilding, leveling up, getting your mind right. They are in a room somewhere, talking about you. Not to you, about you. They're sitting with their friends, their crew, whoever they run to when they need validation, and they're dissecting you. They're saying things like, I don't understand what happened, and I didn't do anything that bad, and why won't they just respond? They're having meetings about you. Meetings. Like you're a quarterly earnings report. Like you're a problem to be solved. And what are you doing? Nothing. You're doing absolutely nothing. And that nothing is more powerful than every single word in that room they've gathered to discuss you in. Their noise cannot compete with your silence. It never could. Here's the mirror. Hold it up. On one side, you've got them, crafting paragraphs in their notes app at 2 in the morning, editing and re-editing a message that's supposed to look casual, but took 45 minutes to write. Hey, just been thinking about you. Hope you're good. That sentence was born in a war room. That sentence had drafts. That sentence was tested on at least 2 people before it got sent. And on the other side, there's you. You saw the message. You read it. And you put your phone face down and went back to what you were doing. That's it. That's the whole interaction. Their 45 minutes met your 0 seconds. Their vulnerability met your indifference. And I need you to understand that this is not cruelty. This is architecture. You are rebuilding the entire structure of how people get to access you. And the foundation of that structure is the word no, not spoken, demonstrated. Because here is what silence actually is at its core. Silence is a reclamation. It is you taking back every ounce of energy you poured into someone who treated it like it was free. Every time you explained yourself, you gave them power. Every time you responded to their bait, you fed the machine. Every time you engaged, even with anger, even with truth, even with the most justified, righteous fury, you kept the circuit alive. And they needed that circuit. They needed you reactive. They needed you plugged in. Because as long as you were responding, they could tell themselves the story that they mattered. Your responses were their receipts, proof that they still had access, proof that they could still move you. And silence rips every single receipt out of their hand and sets it on fire. Now here's where it gets beautiful, and I mean genuinely beautiful, because I want you to feel this part deep in your chest. When you go silent, something shifts, not just in them, in you, in the world around you. You start to notice that the people who were always there, quietly, consistently, without drama, without chaos, without making you prove your worth every single day, those people get louder. Not louder in volume, louder in presence. They become visible in a way they never were before, because the noise of the wrong people has finally stopped. You cannot hear the right ones when you're too busy responding to the wrong ones. Silence clears the frequency. It recalibrates your entire social antenna. Suddenly you're not available for every conversation, and the conversations that find you are the ones that actually deserve your voice. You attract what you have space for, and when you fill your life with responses to people who don't deserve them, you leave no room for the ones who do. Silence creates that room. And let me tell you what else silence does, because this is the part that will change you if you let it. Silence makes you honest. Not with others, with yourself. When you stop talking to the people who were distracting you, you're forced to sit with the one person you've been avoiding. You. And in that quiet, without the constant input of someone else's chaos, you start to hear your own voice again. The real one. That you are no longer available for what once broke you. That is the fun. That is the game. And the beautiful part is, you already won. You won the moment you stopped talking. They just haven't realized it yet, because they're still in that room, still having that meeting, still trying to decode a person who decided they were no longer worth decoding. Your silence is not an absence. It is a verdict. And the sentence is their own imagination running wild forever in a courtroom where the judge already left the building. They called, didn't they? Oh, I can see it. That little spark behind your eyes. That stupid, beautiful, dangerous spark. You think the silence worked. You think you finally became heavy enough in your absence that they had to reach out and check the weight. Sit down. Sit down. You're not going anywhere near that phone until you hear me. And you're going to hear me the way a soldier hears artillery. With your whole body. With your teeth clenched. With every hair standing on end. They didn't call because they miss you. They called because your silence made them uncomfortable. There's a difference so vast it could swallow your entire life and still have room for seconds. They felt the quiet, and it itched. That's not love. That's a reflex. That's someone scratching a mosquito bite. You think this is the midpoint of your story? You think the hero gets the call and walks back into the light? No. This is the part where the movie tricks you. This is the part where the audience leans forward because they think the music swelled, because they think the reconciliation montage is coming, because people are so desperate for the wound to close that they'll mistake a scab for healing. She texted you. He left a voicemail. They said the words. I know they did. They always do. I've been thinking about you. I just want to make sure you're okay. No pressure, but I'm here if you need me. Here if you need me. As if needing them wasn't the exact thing that drove you into the ground the first time. This is a test, not a reunion. They're checking whether the silence was strategy or surrender. They're knocking on the door to see if you'll open it so they can walk back in on their terms, sit in their usual chair and resume the same conversation that was killing you. Your silence was a boundary. Don't you dare turn it into a welcome mat. Not now. Not when you're finally standing in the quiet, and the quiet is starting to feel like yours. Stay here with me. The dark. The dark doesn't lie to you. You think this is easy for me. You think I enjoy sending these messages into a void. Your silence is a disease, and it's infecting everyone around you. I'm sick, the great Father Sing Sing. You think this is easy for me. You think I enjoy sending these messages into a void. Your silence is a disease, and it's infecting everyone around you. I had to hear from Marcus that you're okay. You think this is easy for me? You think I enjoy sending these messages into a void? The one at the lake. I'm tagged. You hearted her comment. You can engage with that, but you can't engage with me. You're performing happiness for our friends while you slowly execute me in private. You're a coward. Why are you being like this? What did I do that was so unforgivable that I deserve this torture? You won't even give me the crime, just the sentence. This endless, silent sentence. It's cruel. It's psychological warfare, and you know it. You know what's funny? You think your silence is strength. It's not. It's screaming. Every time you don't answer, I hear you loud and clear. You're telling me I'm nothing. You're telling me every memory we built is ash. Well, congrats. The message is received. I'm nothing. Our history is nothing. But you forgot something. You forgot I'm not the only one who sees it. Everyone sees you slipping away. Everyone asks me, are you okay? What's wrong with her? And I have to lie. I have to cover for you. I have to say, she's just busy, while you are actively choosing to bow my world down. Your silence is working. You happy? It's working. I'm panicked. I'm raw. I'm showing you all the parts of me you tried to break, and you're just watching. So look. Look at what you made. Look at the wreckage. Because this isn't ending. Not until you make it end. Not until you speak. You've made me into this. Now you have to deal with it. 3 a.m, and nobody's coming. Look around you. This apartment. This silence. This phone screen that hasn't lit up in so long you forgot what color your notifications used to be. You chose this, remember? You chose to go quiet. You chose to stop performing for people who never clapped. You chose to stop bleeding for rooms that never handed you the bandage. And now here you are. And it's so goddamn quiet you can hear your heartbeat. And you're starting to hate the sound. Yeah, I see you. You're sitting there in the dark, asking yourself the question, aren't you? Was it worth it? Did I make a mistake? Maybe the version of me that begged for scraps was better than this version that starves with dignity. That question is ugly, and it's honest. And I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to sit with you tonight. It's going to sit heavy. Because here's what nobody tells you about burning the bridges. You don't just lose the bad ones. You lose the almost good enough ones too. You lose the texts that came at midnight just to say you're up. And even though they never actually cared, they made you feel like someone was thinking about you for one miserable second. And now that second is gone. So yes, the loneliness is real. I'm not going to tell you it's an illusion. I'm not going to tell you to meditate it away or journal through it or some sanitized garbage. It's 3 a.m. and your chest hurts. And nobody on this planet is thinking about you right now. And that is a brutal, ugly, honest thing to sit with. But you didn't leave those people because you wanted to be alone. You left because you were already alone and surrounded by faces that pretended otherwise. At least now the silence is honest. At least now the emptiness is clean. At least now when you survive this night, and you will survive this night, you will know exactly who survived it. Just you. And that has to be enough. Not tonight. Tonight it won't feel like enough. But the morning is coming, and the person who walks out of this apartment tomorrow will be someone who didn't break when breaking was free. Sit in it. Feel it. Then stand up. The noise never stops, does it? Not out there. Not in the traffic, the sirens, the pathetic human choir. But in here, in the skull, 1,000 channels screaming at once, all of them lies. They sell you the scream. They sell you the panic. They sell you the desperate, scratching need for a reason. So you fill it. You filled the space with more noise. With work, with rage, with pills, with people. Anything to drown out the quiet. The quiet is the enemy. Because in the quiet you might hear it. You might hear the truth. That you built the maze. Every wall, every dead end, you laid the bricks. With your choices. With your cowardice. The scream in your head, it's yours. It's the sound of a dog barking at its own reflection in a dark window. So what do? You scream louder. You pick up a hammer, a gun, a megaphone, and you rage against the machine. But the machine is you. It's all you. It's a beautiful, sad joke, isn't it? And then you stop. You don't choose to stop. You just do. The hammer falls from your fingers, the scream catches in your throat, and you listen. You sit with the nothing. That's where I am, sitting in the nothing, with the silence. And you know what? It's not empty. The silence isn't empty. It's full of answers you were too loud to hear. It's the space between heartbeats where the real judgment is passed. It's the gap in the noise where you finally see the puppet strings and realize they're attached to your own fingers. You want to know the punchline? The great cosmic giggle? There is no grand plan. There's no silent puppeteer. There's just you in the void. And the void is looking back with a smile, asking a single perfect question. What now? What now, when the only audience is the darkness? When the only voice left is your own, stripped of all its pretty, noisy lies? You can rebuild the noise. Or you can let the quiet teach you how to really talk, how to really be. The answers aren't out there. They're in here, in the slow, sweet bleed of the silence. So sit with it. Let it fill you up. Let it show you the beautiful, horrible joke of it all. Then maybe you'll know how to laugh. You thought silence was the answer. You thought if you just held your tongue long enough, if you just swallowed enough rage, if you just disappeared into the quiet deep enough, it would become a blade you could finally wield. But silence never cut anyone, did it? Did the quiet ever draw blood on its own? No, it didn't, because silence was never the weapon. Silence was the furnace. Silence was the heat. Silence was the hammer that beat you into something harder than you ever thought you could become. You were the weapon. You always were. Every night you sat in that darkness and didn't break, that was the tempering. Every time someone dismissed you, underestimated you, looked right through you like you were made of glass, that was the grinding edge. Every word you swallowed, every scream you buried, every time you chose to stay standing when your knees were screaming to collapse, that was the steel being folded over and over until it could split bone. The silence didn't save you. The silence shaped you. And now here you stand, sharper than anyone expected, harder than anyone prepared for. And they're still looking at you like you're the same quiet thing they used to push around. Let them. Because you don't announce a blade. You don't explain a blade. You just draw it. And when it finds what it was made to cut, nothing in this world is ready for how deep you're about to go. You are the weapon. The silence was just the war you fought alone. So here you are, standing at the edge of yourself and looking back at everything you used to be. Go ahead. Look. Really look. What do you see? A ghost. A pale, trembling, accommodating ghost who smiled when they screamed, who apologized when they broke things, who made themselves small so everyone else could feel large, who swallowed poison every single morning and called it compromise. You remember that person? Good. Mourn them if you want, but don't you dare reach for them. Don't you dare. Because that person is dead, and you are the one holding the knife. And it feels good, doesn't it? It feels so goddamn good you're almost ashamed of it. Almost. But not quite. Not anymore. Let me tell you something. They're going to come back. Oh, they always come back. They'll come back with their soft voices and their sad eyes and their perfectly rehearsed guilt. They'll say they miss you. They'll say they don't recognize you anymore. They'll say you've changed. And you're going to smile. Not the old smile. Not the please don't hurt me smile. A new one. One they've never seen before. One that makes them realize they were never the ones in control. Not for a single solitary second. And when they say they lost you, and they will say it, you look them dead in the eyes and you tell them they didn't lose you. They lost the version of you that tolerated them. Say it again. Let it rot in their chest. Let it keep them up at 3 in the morning. Let it become the sentence that haunts every empty room they walk into for the rest of their miserable, underwhelming lives. Because that version, The tolerant one, the patient one, the one who sat at tables where respect was never served and pretended the meal was enough. That version didn't survive. That version walked into the fire and never came back out. And you are what crawled from the ashes. Not broken. Forged. Do you understand what that means? It means every single person who underestimated you, every hand that pushed you down, every voice that told you to be quieter, smaller, easier to manage. They didn't destroy you. They fed you. They gave you the exact fuel you needed to become something. They cannot control, cannot predict, cannot survive. And now look at you. Look at you. You are unrecognizable. Your own mother wouldn't know the thing standing in this skin. Your old friends would cross the street. The people who called you weak would lock their doors. You have become the nightmare that they accidentally built. And the most beautiful part, the most exquisite, delicious, intoxicating part, you didn't do it for revenge. You didn't do it to prove them wrong. You did it because somewhere in the darkest, most honest corner of your soul, you realized that the only person who was ever going to save you was the one they tried to destroy. So here's your final truth. Burn it into whatever's left of the soft, naive heart that brought you here. You were never meant to be loved by everyone. You were meant to be feared by the right ones. You were meant to walk into rooms and change the temperature. You were meant to be the warning disguised as a person, the consequence with a pulse, the last thing they expected and the first thing they'll never forget. They built the monster. Now let them live with it. Go. Walk out of this room different. Walk out of this room as something they cannot name, cannot negotiate with, cannot negotiate back into a cage.